Hello, I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Welcome to my kitchen. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing and hit the bell notification so that way you'll be notified when I have a new video uploaded. Today I'm going to show you how to make wonton noodle soup. It's very easy to make, it's comforting, so I hope you stick around and let's get started with making the broth.
The first step in making the broth is to blanch the bones. Bring a large pot of water to a boil over high heat. I am using pork bones. This is 2.5 pounds of pork bones here. Add 2 tablespoons of salt and 1 tablespoon of vinegar to the boiling water. This will help clean the bones. Transfer all the bones into the pot and let the water come to a boil. Boil for a total of 5 minutes. Once the broth is boiled up like this and the foam is starting to form, we can go ahead and turn off the heat and let go to the sink and drain out and clean off the bone. Under cold running water, wash each bone by hand, scrubbing it with your hands and remove any bits of foam and impurities. Transfer it to a clean bowl. Next, prepare the vegetable to add to the broth. Peel 1 small ginger, 2 carrots, and 1 daikon. These root vegetables will add sweetness and extra flavor to the broth. Lightly crush the ginger and 1 tablespoon of peppercorns. In a large pot, add 15 cups of water. Let the water come to a boil over high heat. Transfer the clean bones into the boiling water. Add in the vegetables and let the water come to a boil again. Add 1 rock sugar, 2 star anise, and 2 tablespoons of salt and pepper, and skim away the foam. Lower the heat to medium-high and let the broth simmer for 30 minutes. Continue to skim away the impurities. In a small pan, roast 1 dry squid. The dry squid can be purchased at the Asian supermarket. The roasted dry squid adds sweetness and savory to the broth, so don't skip this step. Continue to cook the broth on low heat for 1 hour. Continue to skim the broth. Okay, so the last time I'm going to do this is just skim off the impurity. This kind of floating up top here. Skim that off before I strain this out. This has been cooking for now a period of probably 2 hours. Yeah? So skim this off. It's kind of loud, but it's okay. So what I'm going to do is take the stuff that I don't want, which is, these are the vegetables. I use that just to get the broth sweeter. I'm going to save the bone because Dad likes to eat the bone. There's some meat in there. Put that in another container. I'm going to take out the bone. Okay, so I took out the bone and the vegetables. So now let's see if I can strain it without killing myself here. Hot water, hot. Nuksoi. Oh my goodness, I did it. And I did not kill myself. Okay, let me go clean up this pot, transfer it back to the pot, and continue to cook and season the broth. So very, very time consuming, but it's worth it to have clean broth. So here we go. Alright, so now that I have my broth strained, I'm going to pour it back into the pot and continue to cook and season it. So let's see if I can do this without dropping. What do you think?
I believe.
Go for it?
Yep.
And these are the raw carrots that I want to put in my wonton soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Turn the heat to medium. Bring that to a boil, and then I'm gonna season it. Okay, so I'm gonna add in 2 tablespoons of fish sauce to the broth. I already have sugar, the salt and pepper in here, so I'm just adding in a tablespoon of the fish sauce, and just let me taste and see what this here. I think that's good. To make the fillings for the wonton, I'm going to go ahead and grind the shrimp. The shrimp has already been cleaned on both sides, the front and the back end. What I have in here is 2 crushed garlic and 1 shallot. So I'm just going to put a couple of the shrimp guys in here. I have 1 pound of shrimp and 1 pound of ground pork. Love the combination of shrimp and pork for the wonton filling. The shrimp here. Okay, so I have about a pound of ground pork in here, a pound of shrimp, but I took out the shell and devine clean. Is probably less than a pound. So for seasoning, I'm adding in in here I have 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and a tablespoon of salt. Combine that earlier. So that is the seasoning. Also in is ground ginger. You can use fresh ginger. Just I want a generous amount, probably about 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. Then 2 types of oil. Chili oil, 1 teaspoon of chili oil, not too much, and a tablespoon of sesame oil. And then in 1 egg, rice wine. That's about a quarter of a cup. I know it seems like this a lot, but for the fillings for wonton, I want that to be a little bit more liquid than your normal dumpling fillings. A tablespoon of oyster sauce. And then just to bind everything together, I have 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. So that's all the seasoning for the wonton fillings. Combination of ground pork, shrimp, salt and pepper, ground ginger, oyster sauce, an egg, cornstarch, 2 types of oil. One is chili oil, the other is sesame oil, and a little bit of sugar, about a teaspoon of sugar, just to balance out all the saltiness here. And the cornstarch just bind everything together. So this is what it looks like, and I want it to look like this, a little bit more liquidy than the normal dumpling fillings. So let's go ahead and start making some wonton. Let's just start with wrapping the wonton. Take about half of a spoon of the wonton. Just wet the edges with water. There's no need to do the egg wash. So first I fold it in half. fold it like this, and then I just pinch it in. So this does not need to be perfect because it's gonna go in a soup and it's gonna lose its form anyway. So this is what it should look like, but I'm not quite sure if that's gonna end up like that once it hit the broth, or after we cook it and then put it in the broth, the wonton broth. So fold it first like this, and then just pinch it in. And then just continue to do this. This is a...
So these are the leftovers. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the freezer, let it firm up. Then I'm gonna transfer it into a Ziploc freezer bag and save it for later. Yeah, so I made these earlier. I stuck it in the freezer and try to get that to form, and it won't stick together. So now we're just gonna put it in boiling water, wake them up. And when they're floating to the top, that means they're done. Okay, so our wonton are done because they're all floating to the top. This is going to be served as our protein. There's no other meat outside of this. The traditional wonton soup that Vietnamese serve has barbecue pork as garnish on top of the soup. And for this soup, for this version that I am making, I am garnishing it with a bunch of vegetables and a sliced tofu. So it'll be a healthier version of the traditional wonton soup. So I'm going to take this over to the sink and strain it out. Here are all the ingredients we're going to put in our bowl of wonton soup. Wonton, egg noodle. This is Chinese chives, which is hair, and I have bean sprouts, and I have soft boiled egg that has been marinated in soy sauce, and tofu. So the tofu doesn't have any taste to it, so what I'm going to do is just make a sauce, for a dipping sauce for the tofu, as well as to garnish on into the broth. I'm putting in a little bit of the chili oil here, and I'm adding in soy sauce. This is the soy sauce that I like to use for dipping sauce. So mix this guys up like that. And just add in a squeeze of lime. So this is going to be our dipping sauce for the wonton soup. And let me just taste it, just to make sure that it's good. Okay, so let's see how this tastes here. Perfect dipping sauce. And for those of you that are skeptical about tofu and saying that tofu doesn't have any taste, this is the perfect sauce for it. So you just take the tofu, dip it into the sauce, and game changer. Very good. Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and put everything together. Before I pour the broth into the bowl, I assemble the dry ingredients first. I put in the egg noodle at the bottom of the bowl, followed by 4 wontons, a couple slices of the tofu, and then my vegetables, Chinese chives and bean sprouts. And then I garnish it with spring onions and cilantro. Wonton noodle soup with homemade bone broth. Very easy to make, and you have control over the seasoning. So comforting and tastes very, very good. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you back here next time.